Have you ever bought a piece that was painted so hideous that it actually hurt to look at it? I have. Safety first. Gotta put on the sunglasses. I'm telling you, it's bad. It's bad. It's real bad. All right, here we go. Oh my, what was I thinking? I know, it's hideous, isn't it? When we picked this piece up, we found out that this is not made by a furniture manufacturer. This is a homemade piece. Someone took time to make this piece. Now, they did it on machines, but they did it so solid. I mean, just look at this. This is solid wood. Even the bottoms of the drawers, there's no way that a furniture manufacturer would have used this much material in a piece. No way. They've cut grooves for the drawer runners. I mean, just look at that. There's no veneer. It is solid wood all the way through, which means it is heavy. Let me tell you. Oh my goodness. It is so heavy. Oh, the design choice is just a little off. So let's strip this down, see what's underneath, and see what we can do to make it look absolutely beautiful. I bet this can be a beautiful piece from a beautiful disaster. So let's get started. Because this is a handmade piece and not mass produced, all of these drawers are different sizes, and if I don't know where they went, it would be a pain in the neck later to try and figure out which hole they went in. So I've numbered them, and we'll go ahead and get started stripping. Let's get our supplies. All right, let's get to it. In the comments the other day, I had a question of, did I cover my stripper with plastic to keep it from drying out? And with this stripper, if I cover it with saran wrap, it is so potent it will eat through the saran wrap. So I do not, and I prefer to use a chemical stripper. I do not waste my time with citrus strip. I wear a mask, so just be sure that if you use a chemical stripper, you mask up well. If the fumes are something that bother you, or you are working in an area that is not well ventilated or doesn't have extractor fans, then, you know, use your citrus strip, and you will need to cover it to keep it from drying out and keep it activating. And from my understanding, you can leave that on even overnight. This takes about 15 minutes and usually takes off pretty much everything. You can already see that is starting to bubble and work, and I've not even gotten it on all of them yet. All right, we're just going to let this keep going for a few minutes, and then we will just pull this paint right off. You can see it's already pretty broken up now. Now let's get this off of here. I had a plan for this piece, but I knew I would need Alex's help. So what he's doing is he is cutting a series of shallow grooves into the drawer facings. So we're going to take the 220 and we're going to sand down these drawers. A 220 will just do a light sand and not really dig into the wood. Some of the drawers, when we went to cut them, we could tell because they're all one piece, like this is all one piece of wood, they're kind of cupped. You won't be able to tell it once the piece is finished because it's just going to look amazing, but you could tell it when you were cutting them, and that's okay. We can work with that, but we're just going to take a 220 and we're going to get everything sanded down. Let me show you what happens when you ask for a raise when you and your husband work together. I've got a raise. I should have been more specific, I think. So we're just going to sand through the rest of the stain and get all the stain off of this piece. Okay, so we've got everything sanded down, the drawers, the top, everything is all sanded down, and I think it's a stunning piece. Can't believe anybody would actually cover such beautiful, beautiful wood grain. It's quite rustic, but it is absolutely beautiful. Just stunning. Although this piece is beautiful wood, I think it needs a little bit more, and I think we're going to go with some sort of industrial look, but I'm going to need Alex to cut me down some trim pieces. What we need to do with these pieces of wood is make them look like they're metal, so we're going to do that now, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm going to take some of the sanding dust out of my sander bag and put it into here. I have a roller that I've been using for a couple of days now, so it's pretty well used, but still quite usable. And some black paint that's almost finished. So just take a little bit of black paint because you're going to end up with sanding dust in this, and you don't want to mess up a whole gallon of paint or 8 ounces or whatever. So just take enough what you need and give a good coat to your piece of wood. And you could do this on large pieces, small pieces, or like me, just some accent pieces. This is just poplar, so no fancy wood. I'm just going to take a bit of my sanding dust that I've collected out of my little sanding bag, or you can take it out of your shop vac. You could also use, if you wanted quite a bit of texture, say you wanted a really rusty look. I don't want a really rusty look, but if you did, you could also use a coarse sea salt and do the same thing, just sprinkle it over your surface. Get a good amount of paint on your roller again, or your brush or whatever, and then just keep going over it. See why you don't want to have a lot of paint that you would use on something else, because after you get done with this paint, it's pretty much trash. Nope, your roller's my roller could be cleaned off, but I probably will go ahead and dispose of it. All right, we're going to do that same thing again, one more time. Probably not using quite as much this time. I need all of these to look relatively similar. Now there are paint companies out there that have a kind of a rust technique, but you can also just paint the colors of rust that you want on there. If you wanted it rusty, get you some reds, some yellow, a little bit of orange umber, and you could make it rusty. This is just going to give it kind of that wood, or the wood, a more metal look, and then you can go back and faux finish it however you want it. I'm going to do a little bit more to this when it dries, and we will meet back up for that process. Okay, so we let this dry overnight, and then today I've come back down and I am going to pour a little bit of shellac into this little Dixie cup. Okay, so we've poured a little bit of shellac in here, and I've ordered some graphite powder off of Amazon. We'll put a link in the description, and this stuff you can do amazing things with to make wood, plastic, pretty much anything look like metal. So we've got our graphite and got a little bit of shellac. Actually, it might be a bit much. And then we're going to put it in, and we want it to be kind of thick and gloopy when we're done. We want it kind of thick, like that. Close to a paste, but not quite. And then get a brush. This will clean out with some denatured alcohol, but it's not an enjoyable experience. And then just put it on your wood or your plastic or whatever it is that you're doing in a random pattern, because this will create a bit of texture, and you'll find that the more that the shellac dries, the more texture you can actually put in it. Now, the more humidity that you have and heat, the quicker your shellac is going to dry. So keep that in mind. If it's a nice hot day and you put it outside in about 2 hours, you can go back and do the next step. Now, if you wanted to do this and make it look nice and smooth, you just paint it on, and then you could make it smooth and it would look like a kind of a gunmetal finish. So we're going to let it get a good dry. We'll come back and do the next step and make it look like a wrought iron. Be sure that you don't use a good brush, because it will really damage them. Now that we have let these pieces dry overnight, everything's nice and solid on them, and you can see it has the texture that we're looking for to make it look like wrought iron. So now what we're going to do is just give it a bit of a sand with either a steel wool or a 100 grit sanding pad. Be sure that when you are sanding graphite, it makes really fine dust, so you're going to want a good respirator when you do this. This one is a Trend Stealth mask. It has filters that are changeable here, and these are N100 filters, so they will filter out really tiny particles. So I highly recommend it, because this mask has a nice rubber seal around the face, and if you're wearing glasses or safety goggles, they don't fog up. So check that out. We'll put the link in the description. So let's put our mask on and get started. You don't want to sand too hard or you'll sand off your texture. So you're just going to lightly touch it. See how that texture that just has a bit of shine to it, but it looks very metallic. All right, I'm going to get the rest of these done and we will meet back up. Okay, it's time to put a little bit of color on this piece, but what we're going to do, we're going to shellac it. I use crystals. They're from Lee Valley. I'm going to use a 2-pound cut. I've printed off a chart off the internet, which means that there's 1 cup of denatured alcohol to 2 ounces of shellac flakes. So I just get out the scales, measure out the flakes, and mix it up that way. I like that cut. It's thin enough to use with a dauber ball, but I can also spray it through my sprayer. So we're going to do that. I'm going to just filter this. Filtering just makes sure that you don't get any trash. I'm going to use a HVLP sprayer. This one is from Harbor Freight. It's very inexpensive, and I'm going to do it with that. We're also going to spray the pieces that are going to look like metal, and that will just be sure that it is covered. Whew, okay, so now that we've got the first coat of shellac on those drawers, what we're going to do is let that dry. Then we'll go back, give it a light sand, very light, and do another coat. Okay, before we shellac this body, we're going to go ahead and put the moldings on that are going to look like metal. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. This piece being solid walnut, it is so heavy that I think that we're going to put this thing on some industrial casters. So let's measure up and cut these feet to where we can put casters on them and add in a piece to the back that the casters can attach to. Because this is solid walnut, we're going to have to pre-drill this, because if not, you run the risk of splintering the wood and just really making a big mess. Now, to give this more depth where he's cut grooves into the drawers, what I'm going to do is take some black wax and wax in between there, and that will give that more depth and make it really pop on that wood. Okay, now we've got all of the dots that are going to look like rivets on our piece. What I need to do is paint them to match now. So I have mixed a bit of a thickening agent into my black paint. There are many ways to do this. The way I did it is I just threw in a bit of cornstarch, which will not change the color, and a bit of calcium carbonate, which will take down the sheen. And I've got 2 different size brushes here, so I'm just going to start painting them. It will take some time, but that's okay. It's going to look fantastic when it's done. And then we will go back and put the graphite on it later, if needed. And we'll just touch up here too. This is the same color that I used on the original wood to make it look metal anyway. So the color will match just fine to touch this up. I could have put these on to before I painted them, but we had to cut them down and I wanted precise measurement as to where they were going to be spaced. So I didn't want to put them on first, but if you had measured them out first, then I could have easily done it when I painted the wood pieces. So just keep that in mind. It could save you a bit of a time-consuming process to measure them out beforehand. And some people are probably not as indecisive as I am about where they want those pieces, so it might save them some time. When you decide to paint furniture, just know that some days it's just not as glamorous as one might think. These drawers are 3/4 inch thick and they weigh about 50 pounds a piece. So just putting handles on and screwing them into the drawers, what's going to happen later is that somebody's going to go to pull this drawer open and that handle is going to pop right off. So we are going to bolt these on. We ordered the handles from Amazon, also ordering longer screws to go with them so that the screws would go all the way through the drawers, and then we've put a nut on the back so that it is all the way through that wood and they will not come off. Sadly, this caused a lot more work because every screw had to be countersunk into the back so that it didn't stick out, so that when you pull clothes out of that drawer, you don't damage your clothes. These are the small touches that really make a piece. It's paying attention to those little details and thinking it through how it's going to be used. So 72 holes and 72 countersinks later, let's take a look at what this piece looked like before and then take a look at the finished piece. That's much better. I am absolutely in love with this piece. I want to keep it so bad, but you can only keep so many pieces that you do. But I adore this piece. It came out spectacular. Now, remember what it looked like before, and 3 other buyers had bought it from auction, looked at it and said it looked too bad for them to even put in their vehicle. And we took the chance, and it paid off so much. This thing is solid walnut, and when I say solid, I mean that's one of the reasons I'm not keeping it, is it would have to go up 3 flights of stairs in my house, and I just don't know if I'm up to that. All of the drawers 3/4 inch walnut. The bottoms are 1/2 inch. You are never gonna have a warping drawer. Never, never. A warping back, if you have to move it, perhaps. Which is another reason that we put this thing on wheels. What a beautiful combination the wheels make with the wood that is made to look like metal. This piece is just made to be a dark academia piece. I think that style is really trendy right now, but the industrialness of it, it could go easily farmhouse with all of these handles. I mean, just look at that wood. Who would have painted that like it was? It's just criminal. It is fantastic. We cut the grooves in those drawers and they came out great. Just great. This piece is amazing. As you can see, it moves so easy now. I mean, just look at that finish. It feels so beautiful and smooth. I am just in awe. We'll put all of the products that we used in this video in the description in the bottom. Lots of great tips in this piece, and I really hope you enjoyed this. Please remember, hit that like button below, because we really need your support to keep this channel moving forward. Thank you. See you on the next one.